4/4. Most songs ever are written in this time signature. An example of one of those songs would be, I don't know, the Phineas and Ferb theme song.
There's 104 days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it. So the annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it. Like maybe.
As you can hear, the song is divided up into measures of 4 quarter notes each. 4/4 is such a common time that some people call it common time, and write it as a C, as if that's so much faster to write than 4/4, but whatever. Now your first question might be, well, who the heck decided that a measure would have 4 beats in it? Why can't we do, like, I don't know, groups of 2? Well, sometimes we do, and that's called 2/4 time, aka cut time, aka C with a line through it. As far as I'm aware, these are the only 2 time signatures with their own symbol. Anyway, you could technically notate the Phineas and Ferb theme song in 2/4 time, and it would look like this.
There's 104 days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it. So the annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it. Like maybe.
But do you see how every other measure doesn't really have a strong pulse on 1 anymore? Now, if you were dead set on notating this in cut time for whatever reason, you could remedy that by doing this. Now the tempo is half as fast, and the quarter note is what used to be the half note. Theoretically, if you wanted to, you could also do 8/4. That would just mean there are half as many measures in the song. Heck, you could just put this in 144/4 and make this whole song one gigantic measure. The point is, none of these approaches are wrong, per se, it's just that there's a point where it gets stupid. At the end of the day, the thing to remember about time signatures is that they're just meant to give a song structure so you understand how it works. So if thinking in cut time helps you understand music better, then by all means. However, here's one good example of a song that I actually do think makes more sense in 2/4.
In the mall, up and down the escalators in the mall, I got a hankering for potatoes in the mall. In the mall, 'cause pretty soon now it'll be about time to stop for fiddles in the mall.
In many cases, there's room for interpretation, but either way, we generally like our bars to be nice and even. Of course, that doesn't mean we can't still have variety. I mean, just look.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow.
That's what my baby says.
Mow, mow, mow.
And my heart starts pumping.
A number in the letter isn't getting any better than football X7. Football X7. She'll change her name to Larry. You can change in the broken heart. Drink out of a coconut. 3 games for a token, but the rest is free. Rubber bands, rubber balls, made with super special density.
Come, let's tiptoe into the dark. One good scare ought to do that. Stepping on the greens in her designer jeans. She's the disco miniature golfing queen. We could have been together. All you had to say was when. Atlantis is a city at the bottom of the sea. It's soggier now than it used to be. We won't let disappointing weather patterns ever keep us down. When the tri-state aurora comes around. If you have a terrier or something hairier, we can clean him up for you. Just let him on out of that carrier.
Drogen, 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 fest. Yeah!
If you're a goose, a chicken, a penguin, or a duck, just come on in, 'cause we don't discriminate. Welcome to our bird mansion.
As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff you can do with plain old straight 4/4 if you know what you're doing. But hang on, what if you can't divide the measure into an even number of beats at all? For instance,
Now play 6 chickens on your head. Then you try to eat a feather bed. Put a jelly donut into your pants. Und die!
the Stumblegimp humiliating dance of contrition has 3 beats to a bar. As you could probably hear, writing a song in 3/4 is a great way to give it that jaunty, rustic whimsy. And it's the one big exception to the whole preferring even bar length thing. For reasons I can't explain, our brains just find it more natural counting to 3 than to like 5 or 7. And as hard as I tried, I could not find any songs in Phineas and Ferb that use 5/4 or 7/4. And just kidding.
You should be coming up on Paul Bunyan's.
Paul Bunyan's. Well, food is good, but not too good, eh?
Oh, there it is.
My siblings and I quote this on a regular basis, by the way. Anyway, it's just a little jingle, but it is in 5/4, and it works particularly well in this context because it makes for a comedically abrupt ending. Now here's a clip of Perry and Doofenshmirtz fighting that's scored in 5/4.
Hey, wait, how does this toy castle have working catapults?
Because our brains are so hardwired to listen for an even number of beats in a measure, music written in odd meters like 5/4 often rely on syncopation to sort of trick your brain into losing track of where the true pulse is. Now here's a different version of Perry theme music from the Alka-Files episode that's in 7/4. Again, note the syncopation here that sort of masks the pulse and makes it a little more difficult to actually count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dan and Swampy, if you're watching this, I just want you to know these things do not go unnoticed by me. Now, this whole time, we've been talking about quarter notes. What if I hate quarter notes? Well, that's exactly why we can also change the other number. Here's a song that's in 12/8.
Avast, me hearties! We're sailing for the Isle of Spleen to search for the treasure of bad beer.
I'm feeling sick. You're looking green.
We search for the treasure of bad beer.
But wait a minute, I hear you crying. Isn't that just 4/4, but every beat is a triplet? Yes. Yes, it is. 12/8 is just a way to avoid having to write that little bracket with a 3 a bunch of times. It's just understood that there are 12/8 notes divided into 4 groups of 3.
This is a ballad of bad beer. This is a ballad of bad beer.
12/8 is a great way to give your song a sort of skippy, forward ho quality. As well as pirate-themed songs like the Ballad of Bad Beer, 12/8 also pops up a lot in downtempo doo-wop.
Well, Ben stomps like a better than anyone else on earth. It's because we have rules for sleeping that we seem to know at birth.
And marches.
Never mind the fatalities when there's municipalities to crush a sector with the threat of weaponry.
But be sure not to confuse 12/8 with shuffled or swung 4/4. That's where the beat only has 2 8th notes, but the second one is delayed a little bit. Bump, 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 bump. Which you'll tend to hear a lot in up-tempo doo-wop.
And I feel fine, cause I've got a nemesis.
R&B.
And when I do, you're gonna be busted. I don't wanna put the hurt on you.
Show tunes.
I know what we're gonna do today, though it might sound just a bit cliche.
And Christmas.
It's ski and snowball fight time, and also fly a kite time. Cold and sunny, yes, that's right. I'm talking about winter. It's a swinter.
Put another way, it's kind of like each beat is a triplet, just with the middle note missing. But if a song uses shuffled 4/4 and uses triplets a lot, and it's really slow, it can start to sound effectively like 12/8. The difference is purely semantic, but a difference nonetheless. Take Evil Boys, for example.
They built a roller coaster and a beach in the backyard. Drove cattle through the city and messed up the boulevard. They took me back in time when we went to that museum. They built 50-foot treehouse robots, but still you didn't see them. Those boys are...
Sure, writing it in 12/8 would save some ink on indicating all those triplets, but in really swingy pieces like this, triplets feel like more of an exception than a rule when they come up. It's the subversion of the meter that makes those triplets so stanky, and that's why we gotta mark them.
I know you think the Saints, but Mom, I'm here to tell the BOYS, they're just EVIL. Those boys are evil.
Now, just as 4/4 is to 2/4, you may think 12/8 is to 6/8. But the unusual thing about 6/8 is that it's pretty much entirely reserved for waltzes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any example of a waltz in Phineas and Ferb. You know, it's just not that kind of show. Just kidding. Dude, you just got pranked. Again.
A city boy out in the wilderness. This is all pretty new and bizarre. no hamburger to shove in my face. It's just one big salad bar.
As you could hear, 6/8 is great for giving a song an elegant and flowy quality. Now, if you're as big of a Phineas and Ferb fam, I am. Oh my god. Now, if you're as big of a Phineas and Ferb fan as I am, you may be like, hey, what about the song Drusselstein Driving Test Waltz? But there's a very specific reason that I didn't lead with that one. Just listen.
Gas, shift, brake, drinking coffee's a big mistake. Try not to plunge into the lake when you're doing that Drusselstein Driving Test Waltz.
You might notice that this sounds a lot like the humiliating dance of contrition from earlier, which raises the question, why use 6/8 and not just 3/4? Allow me to answer in the form of ambiguous noises and hand gestures. Dun 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 dun. So I hope that answers your question. Of course, there's also the issue of actually having to write it down, because 6/8 gives us those connecting lines that makes the flowy cadence easier to visualize. But the reason why I put Humiliating Dance of Contrition and not Drusselstein Driving Test Waltz in 3/4 is because Humiliating Dance of Contrition, that one has a lot of 8th notes, and writing it in 6/8 would mean a lot of 16th note bars, and nobody likes looking at that. Plus, the pulse on every beat felt strong enough to me to be a quarter note. But again, you could go either way, technically. Now, we've talked about odd meters, and we've talked about 8th meters, and I was really hoping I would get to talk about odd 8th meters, which is basically when the measure doesn't contain a whole number of beats at all. A bar of 7/8, for example, would contain, effectively, 3.5 beats, and you could pulse it like bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum. But songs that actually use those meters are exceedingly few and far between in practice. And needless to say, I could not find any of them in Phineas and Ferb. No, like, nobody uses 7/8, I couldn't find anything. So we've covered a bunch of different time signatures that you can use for different purposes, but if the monotony of only having— I'm just kidding, I found one. 2, actually. Now, both of these examples are 4/4, but they switch to 7/8 briefly. Take a listen.
You know these two are doing how you gotta bust your brothers. You gotta bust your brothers now.
Now, it is real easy to miss. I had to listen to it like 10 times to make sure I was hearing it correctly. But it's there. Here it is again, counting each individual 8th note.
You know these two are doing how you gotta bust your brothers. You gotta bust your brothers now.
Making that bar 1/8 note shorter than your brain expects it to be just gives it that dynamic kick. And if you still don't believe me, here's the same thing again, except I edited it to be even 4/4.
You know these two are doing how you gotta bust your brothers. You gotta bust your brothers now.
See, it felt too long that time, didn't it? Felt too normal. Here's the second example I found, which is even easier to miss.
Not me. I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous.
And here's the same thing again, edited to be 4/4.
Not me. I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous.
That's the magic of 7/8 for you. I guess now would be a good time to segue into other songs that switch between different time signatures. Because if shackling yourself to one time signature is boring you to death, guess what? You don't have to. Who's gonna tell on you? The government? If you pay attention, you'll actually hear a lot of time signature switching in instrumental scores. Here's some of the examples I noticed.
Hey, what was that small noise?
Let's all go walk over to it.
Good morning, Agent P.
Let's get him!
As you could hear, switching between time signatures is a great way to make things more dynamic and unpredictable. It's a lot less common in music with words, though. Well, no, it actually happens quite often in choral music, like this one whack piece that my ensemble is doing. But choir is a whole different beast. The most you're probably ever gonna find in mainstream music is a 4/4 song that briefly switches to 2/4, like this.
He's weak in the knees and he can't find his keys. But put your hands together cause he's here to please. He's a flying fishmonger. Flying fishmonger.
It's not like the world that we see from the ground. I guess the main difference is we're looking down.
But sometimes what you can do is change the way you emphasize certain beats to where it sounds like the time signature has changed.
But you can call him Agent P. I said you can call him Agent P.
Agent P!
Who knows which one of these they actually wrote it as, but it sounds like this one. Here's another one.
Then you hear a noise that makes your heart skip a beat. It's the creepy pitter patter of his little webbed feet. You say, no, mo.
Even though 5 and 3 technically just add up to 4 and 4, the beats are emphasized unevenly from the rest of the song, and it makes a sort of unsettling vibe. Another thing you can do if you're feeling a little bit silly but don't want to change the time signature is mess around with the phrasing. You see, just like a measure is a group of beats, a phrase is a group of measures that contains a complete idea. So like a verse, a chorus, a bridge, etc. The way it's often explained is that notes are words, measures are sentences, and phrases are paragraphs. And usually, regardless of the time signature, we like our phrases to be some power of 2 bars long, and you'll understand why that's important in a second. Take the chorus of Queen of Mars as an example.
Now I'm the queen of Mars, I was invisible on Earth. It only took the magic portal to Mars to give me some self-worth.
So that chorus felt of very normal length, right? Very self-contained. That's because it's 8 bars long, or 2 to the third. That means if I were to arbitrarily double the length of a bar, and again, this phrase always divides up evenly. So all you gotta do to shake things up is, well, not that.
Although my brothers make me frantic with every single crazy antic, and when I'm bouncing off the walls, you're the one who stays calm. Because you love me for who I am, I'll always love you more.
That chorus was 12 bars long. Even, yes, but not a power of 2. I chose to think of it as an 8-bar chorus followed by a 4-bar, like, post-chorus. And because that last bit is the odd one out and it stands out, it makes for a more impactful finish. In Brand New Best Friend from the Second Dimension movie, the pre-chorus is only 6 bars long instead of the 8 you might anticipate.
Now I know all about you, and you know all about me. And now before me I see someone with whom I agree. I found a brand new best friend, and it's me.
The chorus drop surprises you by coming 2 bars earlier than you expected, and it sort of maintains momentum and gives it a more lively energy. Same thing with the pre-chorus of Robot Riot.
You think you're gonna take us down? Well, mechanical man, you just try it. You're gonna ride that rail out of town. This is a robot riot. You know what I mean?
And the first verse of SIMP Squirrels in My Pants.
Tell me what's making you jump like that. Ain't got no chickens, ain't got no rats.
Squirrels in my pants.
S to the R to the M to the P, then maybe you can be moving like me. Step right over and watch me put it down.
Now on the flip side, you can also make phrases longer than expected, like this.
It's the Fletcher family flying circus, doing aerial acrobatics in the atmosphere. High above the stress and strife, there's nothing here to irk us. Just a father and a son together, keeping our heads above the weather. I wish that we could do this every year. Barrel rolls and
This time, instead of being the typical 16, this phrase is 20 bars long. And thus, by making you wait, it heightens the impact of that last note. Summer Belongs to You does a similar thing, where its pre-chorus is 10 bars instead of 8, which builds hype for the chorus drop when it finally comes.
There's a world of possibilities outside your door. By settle for a little, you can get much more. Don't need an invitation, every day is new. Yes, it's true. Summer belongs to you.
And here's the refrain from Forced Perspective Western Town, which is 11 bars long.
You finagle your angle, change your point of view. Doodly doo. In a forced perspective, Western town with you. Yeah.
Sometimes all you gotta do to extend a phrase and achieve that drawn out effect is hold the last note a little bit longer.
Whichever combo has a better ring, it's all of the best parts and none of the bad. It's the best season that you ever had. It's Dowdy birthday.
We got a rhino's horn in case we run into trouble. A big giraffe neck so our reach can double. The tail was gonna be a snake, I'm glad we used pencil, cause a monkey's tail will give us something more prehensile.
Now remember how you can emphasize certain beats differently to sound like a different time signature? Well, you can do the same thing at a larger scale with phrases, like this.
Just take the yellow one, not the one that's burnt umber. And don't you take that purple one, it's covered with lumber. What? A log truck overturned last Tuesday, take the yellow side one.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
If you want
Now that was technically an even 8-bar phrase, but it sounded like 6 and 2. Now here's a 16-bar excerpt from There's a Platypus Controlling Me, where that implicit phrase length is all over the place.
Don't stop. I can't stop. I got a platypus controlling me. I got a platypus controlling me. Now let me sum it up. It was a strange set of circumstances. I cut down the hill. I got glue on my hands. Now I got records on my fingers, and I just can't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Well, I would if I was able. There's a platypus controlling me. He's underneath the table. There's a platypus controlling him. What?
In this case, it works very well in the context of it being freestyle, so strict adherence to a meter is less necessary. But what if you wrote a whole song in equal length phrases, but unconventional length? Well, Bouncing Around the World does exactly that.
Come on along with me, so many sights to see, but not a whole lot of time. We're in a hurry, we're bouncing around the world. I think we all can agree that was a Baltic Sea. I checked my GPS time, I'm pretty sure that we're bouncing around the world.
Even though the time signature is 4/4, the measures are consistently grouped in phrases of 5. So technically you could think of this song as being in 24, or like 5/4, but super slow. Okay, that's all good and fine, I hear you say judgmentally, but what's the point of all this? Dork. Easy. Making things interesting. As a triangular boy once said, boredom is something up with which I will not put. And by golly, there's never a boring musical moment in Phineas and Ferb. Among many, many other reasons to love this show, all of its songs are consistently catchy, funny, subversive, lyrically clever, and just full to the brim with nuggets and Easter eggs for music theory nerds like myself. I mean, seriously, these guys were sitting at their desk thinking like, hey, our crime-fighting platypus needs some theme music. Let's write it in 7/4. This show has been showering us with the gifts aplenty, and we're not talking about it enough. You can tell I'm passionate about this topic because I'm definitely making $0 from this video with the 87 copyright claims I'm about to get. On a related note, it's doing things like meticulously combing through 5 seasons of an animated kids show and taking detailed notes on the time signatures of each song that have led some to conclude that I have autism. And because I find no personal value in assigning that label officially, the world will never know for sure. It's a healthy obsession Okay? Anyway, that is all I got for this for now. If you enjoyed this video, hey, be sure to do all the things that make YouTube show this to more people. And if you don't, I will unfortunately have to, you know, invent a stupidinator and shoot you with it. And then you're gonna be stupid. Alright, now can we cut to a montage of every time I was interrupted by a helicopter while filming this? Now your first question might be, well, who the heck is flying a plane over my house? To be nice and even. Helicopter? Is today National Helicopter Flying Day? What the f is happening? Straight 4-4 if you know what you're doing. I'm gonna
This is like the 5th one in 10. This is.
Now this whole time we've been talking about planes flying over my house. Is there a dogfight happening out there? And needless to say, there's another plane